We can't understate that for sure. Like that is an absolute game changer. And as soon as we understood that that was a potential for us.
Welcome to the 5 Questions podcast, where we unlock real estate and business insights one question at a time. Welcome to the 5 Questions podcast. I am your host, Mario Lamar. Today on our show, our guest is an active real estate investor for over 12 years. Her and her husband own over 90 doors, not counting all the joint ventures that they are involved in. They have started the Intentional Real Estate Investing Group, where they bring together investors, experts, and professionals together to share their knowledge. Welcome to the show, Lisa Michaud. Welcome
Thank
to the
you so
show,
much for
Lisa.
having me. Thanks, Mario. So happy to be here.
Lisa, the concept of the podcast is really simple. 5 quick questions, and we get straight to the point. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Question number 1. You've explored various real estate strategies building your portfolio, from house hacking to self-storage to multifamily properties. Which strategy has been the most rewarding for you, and why?
Yeah, like you said, we've definitely done a lot of different things. We've also done short-term rentals. We've done rent to own. I feel like we've tried almost everything in this process. And for us, multifamily has for sure been the most rewarding. Self-storage, I'd say, is probably one of the easiest in terms of management. House hacking is probably the most accessible and a great starting point. But for us, multifamily is the one that's been really personally and financially rewarding. So multifamily, we really love it because, and like why it's so rewarding is because even like stability is a big value for my husband, for Troy. If he was here, he would tell you that. And what we love about like each building, you actually have diversification within the assets. So when we own, for example, we do have a one short-term rental. And when it's vacant, it's vacant. There's absolutely zero money coming in. Whereas when we look at like a sixplex or a 10-unit building, if one or even two of those units is vacant, we still have 80 to 90% of the revenue still coming in. So that makes a lot of difference in terms of like stability, business planning, and just gives us that diversification that we're looking for in our portfolio. We also get economies of scale. So, with our short-term rental, whenever anything goes wrong on it, like, the roof or electrical systems or plumbing or heating or whatever, like we have to redo it for each single family property. But when it comes to the multifamily, we're able to do one roof and maybe that will hit 3 units or 6 units or 20 units all at once. So there's a lot of economies of scale in there. There's also, this is probably one of the biggest ones too, is access to commercial financing. So for us, and I think many investors face this challenge where you're investing and you're often starting out with residential financing, which is based on your personal income. Well, each person, no matter whether you're making 50,000 or 500,000 or 5 million a year, you hit a ceiling, you hit a limit to how much the bank will lend you to continue to invest in properties. And so that for us was a really big challenge of like, how do we get over this? How do we get over the ceiling? How do we break through it? And for us, that answer has been commercial financing. So commercial financing is different than residential because residential is based on your personal income, whereas commercial financing, such as on a multifamily property, is based on the income of that property. So as long as the income and the expenses can support the mortgage, that you're actually making money on that property, you have the potential to have access to commercial financing. And in that case, there's no limit to how many, or at least not that we've found yet at over 90 doors, to how much you can purchase multifamily properties. So that combination of those three things have really allowed us to be able to scale. And, when it comes to real estate investing, you need a blend of time and scale to be able to create freedom and financial independence, financial freedom, and lifestyle freedom. And so this has allowed us to create a bit of both. And we've been able to accelerate faster and also have some of that stability along the way too.
I speak to a lot of investors, and that seems to be the common trend. Like multifamily, because of the financing abilities, that's how they're able to grow their portfolio much more faster than purchasing single family homes.
Absolutely. It makes a huge difference. Yeah, we can't understate that for sure. Like that is an absolute game changer. And as soon as we understood that was a potential for us, and we had to get over a few mindset things in the process too, but because it is a little bit more expensive, it does take more time. You do pay higher interest rates. Like there was a couple hurdles that we needed to work through from becoming, just real estate purchasers to becoming actual investors and understanding this as a business. But as soon as we did that, we went from three doors to, or one door to three doors to nine doors to 22 doors up to 33, and then now over 90. So like that really has been the accelerator that's allowed us to keep moving.
That brings us to our question number two. The Burr method, which we're talking about scaling a portfolio, Burr method is commonly used for scaling portfolios. How have you applied this method to grow your portfolio, and maybe what advice would you give it to investors looking to use it?
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, the Burr method is a term coined by Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets. So it starts with B and then a bunch of R's. So it's buy, it's renovate, it's rent it out, refinance, and then repeat. And the basic part of this method is that you're able to put your initial capital in to purchase a property, do the renovations, increase your income, decrease expenses through those renovations, adding value to that property through forced appreciation, and then be able to refinance the property. Again, it's because of because of that forced appreciation that makes the difference. That means you've done something to the property to make it more valuable. Now that you've, hoped and prayed that the market will go up, then you're able to refinance and at 75% loan to value, which is kind of typical. You might get a little less, you might get a little more. You're actually able to get your capital out again, which is that last R, to then go and take that same capital you used on the first property and go repeat that. So this is another game changer when you can do this. So I would say I talk to a lot of real estate investors. We have a lot of clients that are scaling their multifamily portfolios. And so often the number one challenge is financing. It's like, how do I get the financing? Well, one part of it is the mortgage, the commercial mortgage. The other part is like the down payment. Like, how do you continue to come up with that? The Burr method is something that allows you to take your initial capital and continue to reinvest it over time. So that's what we've done. That's what we've been able to do. I mean, it's also been a mix of our money too. We've been on a 12-year journey. So there's been lots of different things we've done, but the Burr method has certainly in the last few years allowed us to accelerate that again. So
Some
that's
somebody who knows how to use the different tools available out there, because using the bank's money and then, like you said, using the same deposits or close to over and over is a huge game changer for scaling. So the Burr method
absolutely,
definitely
absolutely.
is a good.
I mean, if you're talking about like maybe it takes you a couple years to save up $100,000, right? Then if you're again stuck having to wait several more years to save up another $100,000 and another $100,000, and there are some pieces here with Burr method that are important to understand, especially if you're talking about commercial financing. It's usually a 2 to 3 year waiting period. So it's not like you're able to do this, every month or something, or every 6 months or even every year. But if you're able to, which we've done over time, is save our own capital and have some capital in the Burr method, and then repeat. And then, we were able to continue to use our capital and the Burr capital, if you will, and grow both at the same time, which allows us to scale. So that being said, there are some things to really consider and some advice, because what we're not doing, you may have noticed, is we're not leaving a ton of money in the property. Like, we're not building up that equity within the property. So there is, of course, that like equity versus risk question that everyone has to answer. So, you have to understand that. You have to understand that you're taking on more risk, because let's say we buy a property for $100,000, we put in $100,000 and it's worth $400,000 at the end. We could just only owe $200,000 on a $400,000 property and 50% equity. But the Burr method says, no, let's go capture that other 25% to get that 75% of loan to value. So we're going to get the other $100,000 again back out. But now we owe, $300,000 potentially on this $400,000 property. So you don't have as much equity. So I think that's important to just understand for context, what that looks like. And I also think,
Perfect.
as far as advice, like, assume things are going to go wrong. I am the ultimate optimist, but when it comes to real estate, and especially I think Burr, you have to assume that things are going to go wrong. This is a classic, plan for the worst and hope for the best. So what that means is you cannot, and I cannot emphasize this enough, you cannot just hope that a property will appreciate. Whether you think it's because of immigration, new transit lines coming in, oh, this area is just about to pop. Like, that is not how this works. It's really, really important that you know your numbers, that you have solid exit strategies, and that you're very conservative in these estimates. So that means, we're factoring in lower rents, higher vacancies, higher maintenance fees, adding, 30 to 50% on top of what the renovation estimates are, adding more time for renovations, estimating higher holding costs. Like, and this, I said about 6 or 7 things that could go wrong. chances are they're probably not all going to go wrong, but probably one or two or three are going to go wrong. And so if you plan for all seven to go wrong and your property still, your deal's still going to make sense, when only one or two go wrong, you're going to be okay. But if you only plan for one or two things going wrong and you have three or four, you can put yourself in a really tough situation. And when it comes to exit, make sure you understand as well, like know your numbers. And also, I kind of alluded to it, but know what your financing exit's going to look like. How long do you have to hold a property before you can refinance? What is your LTV going to look like? Different communities have different, and different asset classes have different percentages. I've been throwing around 75%, but like I said, sometimes it's lower, sometimes it's higher. And make sure that what your deal is going to will make sense with not just current interest rates, but also if interest rates go up, again, and make sure you're still going to fit your DCR. So these are all things that have always been important, but I think they're even more so important right now as we're seeing so many shifts and so many changes in the economy, in the markets. Those are things that can really help when it comes to using the BRRRR to scale your portfolio.
And you brought up a good point. Having multiple exit strategies or exits planned is a must, because that's going to make the difference. If you continue scaling, or if you do like what's happening now, and some investors are busting because they over leverage themselves, or have just one or two exit strategies. So that brings us to our third question. So your portfolio I believe you invested in 3 different provinces in Canada, right?
So
So
far, yes. Yeah.
when it comes to challenges, because we talked about challenges, right? It's going to happen. How do you navigate the differences in regulations, the different markets that you invested in across these regions that you are in?
Well, I want to share with you a funny story, and Troy always hates when I tell this, lovingly hates it. But I remember distinctly there was a time when we were just had our first door. We were talking about what we wanted to do next with our capital. And, he said to me, I don't think I could ever invest where I don't live. And he's like, I just can't imagine not being able to drive across town and just plunge that toilet or do whatever thing. Troy's very, very, very handy. And it's so funny because now fast forward, 10 years, 12 years from that first conversation, our closest property is a 4-hour drive, and our farthest is a 54-hour drive if you take the shortcut through the US. So we've made a giant flip in this. And so I share that because I think a lot of people feel very nervous to invest in other places they don't know. And I just want to say, we've been there, we know what that's like, and there's hope on the other side. So what I've learned in my years of investing is that markets are changing and opportunities are always changing. Society's evolving. So we've moved provinces as the trends, as the regulations, and as the opportunities have changed. So, for example, we were in Alberta. We ended up exiting out of Alberta, I guess actually 10 years ago now. We then started investing in BC. We haven't invested in BC again. Now we're investing in New Brunswick. So I think that it's important to remember that these things are going to change. And that's why I think being able to invest remotely is such a key skill for investors. Otherwise, can you imagine if you're always the whole point of investing, in my opinion, is to have the life that you want to live. And if you're constantly tied to investing where you live, you're going to miss out on opportunities. Or if you're constantly trying to move to where the opportunities are so you can live there and you can have rentals there, what kind of a lifestyle freedom is that? So some of the ways that we navigate the challenges of what's happening, I'd say we are only actively investing in one province right now. We are very conscious about getting to know market intimately and understanding it. We are exploring opportunities in one other province too right now. We're seeing, okay, things are shifting in this market. Let's look at some others and where there's opportunities. Again, diversification. But the really, really, really big key to this, and I believe to scaling our portfolio to where we have it and beyond, is to have a trusted team. We cannot be the experts in everything. We're not the experts in everything. We're so lucky and we've built, solid teams. So when it comes to picking markets, it's finding investor-focused realtors in that market who can help guide you, help you understand about different neighborhoods, help you understand about the different, nuances to investing in that market. Property managers, that's another one. We have really great property managers. And so we don't have to be the experts in all the regulations. I think it's really important before you go into a market, really important to understand some of the regulations as far as what do your rights look like as landlords versus tenants? What do evictions look like? What is your ability to increase rents, damage deposits? Some of those basic things are important to know. But as far as the nuances and the day-to-day details, we're very hands off on that. We're not dealing with that in any of the provinces or any of the markets that we're invested in. And we have a trusted team to do that. So I think that's really key. I just think it's impossible to scale without a team. And so one of the things I think we talk about really well in real estate, everyone knows this, is the concept of leverage in real estate. We're borrowing other people's money from whether it's the bank or other creative financing strategies to be able to invest the full amount and earn gains on the full amount. Well, I want to just remind people that, you can also invest, and leverage isn't just about money, but it's also about other people's knowledge, expertise, and time. And so the more that you can do that, just like you get higher returns when you're using leverage funds and also higher risk, it's the same thing with leveraging other people's talents and knowledge. And that's what we do with our team, with our property managers, our realtors. They're the ones that are helping guide us. And yes, there's potentially more risk because like we're not like overseeing every single detail, but the reward is significantly, there's so much more potential, and it's way less stressful. So I think that's really big thing too.
You said it right. Every investor I talk to, the number one advice they say is build a solid team first. This is a key point, and I did it myself. Until I built a team, I did not move forward in my success. Like I building a team is the number one thing you must do if you want to make to go into real estate and be successful. Yeah, you brought up a good point.
Thanks.
Brings us to question number 4. Real estate investing isn't always smooth sailing. We talked about some of the challenges, but can you share with us maybe your biggest challenge that you faced and how you were able to overcome it and maintain maybe the growth in your portfolio?
Yeah, I'm so glad you're asking this question because I think TikTok and social media has made people think that real estate is like this vending machine where you put a dollar in and it just continues to spit cash out to you. And that's just not the reality. At least it's certainly not been our reality. So there's a couple big challenges we faced, definitely in the beginning, I would say trying to do it alone. I'd heard of like people that had like 40 doors or 90 doors or 100 doors, but we didn't really have access to those people. And nor did we and take the initiative to be like, hey, could I like pay you for your time to learn? Like that wasn't even in our frame of mind. And so we were just kind of figuring it out on our own. Like that was, I think, one of the biggest things that really kept us stuck. Like, I said that we've been investing for 12 years in different markets and different strategies. But truthfully, for the first about 5 or 6 years, we only had one door. Now we changed. We had something local. We did some rent to owns, and we had a short term rental. So we were actively investing and doing some different things, but we weren't growing, and we really were very stuck at that point. And I think that was a challenge we didn't even realize we were in. And I think sometimes those are the worst challenges, when you don't even realize like what the potential is and how much you're limiting yourself.
Yeah.
So to get out of that, I think first we had to realize like, like we have not actually grown. We haven't really done much in this. Like we haven't been that's the whole word behind our community is intentional. We hadn't been intentional. And, that meant that, and I've done the numbers on this in a very, very conservative way, like us not getting educated, us not, listening to podcasts, getting mentors, taking courses, working with coaches, not networking, conservative, that cost us about $10 million. That's a conservative number. That's assuming that prices, that's not including like inflation or price increases. That's just like a straight dollar to dollar analysis. So that's a pretty big $10 million whoopsies.
It's a powerful number. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. I will take a moment and cry with my sad little violin over here. I'll share, 2 other challenges I think that we had. So I think every time as an investor, like whenever you kind of move up to the next level, there's always that scary moment of like, oh, should I be doing this? Should I not be? And we've had lots of those. But I think one of the scariest ones was buying our first big deal. So it was 13 doors. It was our first deal in New Brunswick, and it was set to close March 31st of 2020. And in case anybody doesn't remember what you were doing in March of 2020, let me remind you, you weren't traveling on planes because the airlines were shut down. There were no sports events happening. We were all sanitizing our groceries, sanitizing our mail. My Troy works in the energy industry. Oil was negative $40 a barrel. I had a speaking and coaching business. All my speaking engagements had completely dried up because we didn't have events. Our childcare had been lost, so we had no childcare. And then also we owned, at that time, I think we owned 10 units in BC. And the BC government had just come out and said, people don't have to pay rent, but you can evict them. So we were also on the hook for 10 people's homes. The property taxes on that, the mortgage on that, the insurance on that, without any guarantee or even a promise, really, frankly, just like a hope that people would actually pay us money. So it's a pretty scary place to be like, is this the moment that we should be buying our biggest building ever? Somewhere we're like, we can't get to, we're not there.
Yeah.
And that was a big challenge. And how we overcame that, like we had a very clear vision about what we wanted to create. We wanted to start being able to replace our active income with more passive income and do it sooner. And so we took that calculated risk. We understood the risk and we were also willing to lose it. We were willing that like, if all this goes away, like let's say that like it let's say that entire building, like it was a terrible investment and we lose that money, we were willing to lose the money. We also had like built up reserves over the years, right? This is not a short-term thing. We're talking about 12 years here. We built up some reserves so that if people stopped paying, we had some runway. Like we had some things in the background, and that allowed us to really stay clear on our vision, take the calculated risk, and kind of like just go for it. No, like, you know what? Like we can handle it. If the worst case scenario happens, we're going to be okay. Have that faith in ourselves and our ability to figure it out. The last thing I'll say is that I think the biggest challenge in the last couple of years has just been scaling really fast. Like we literally went from 9 to over 90 doors in less than 4 years. So it was a lot. And Troy, he does a lot of the work on it. I do a lot of like the networking, the strategy, the investor piece, the education, the family stuff. He's done a lot of like the nitty gritty, like bookkeeping and keeping tabs on things. And so we've had to be a team along the way. It's been a lot of time. It's been definitely some stressful moments and lots of challenges. And there's been times where we've had literally 50 to 60 units like vacant that we've been renovating. That's a ton. And that's like millions of dollars of like money going out. And so that has definitely been a challenge as far as like, staying committed to the vision, just like learning how to work as a team together in those moments, getting a lot of help in the like building that team, figuring out even in the household, like what does it look like to have more childcare? What does it look like to have someone help us with like cleaning the house or doing dishes and things like that? What does it look like to like be okay with ordering pre-made meals that make our life easier? So that's definitely been a challenge, and I'm really looking forward to like this next phase, which is like stabilizing. So having some great systems, seeing where things are settling, and now being able to optimize, like what assets do we keep? Are there anything we need to sell? What can we do to optimize our portfolio now that we've hit this point? And before we take another giant leap up, like let's optimize this.
Definitely what I take from that is having a plan and executing on it at the best of your ability. But definitely having a plan is a must. If you want to, take some challenges away, it's going to still happen. But if you have a solid plan, then you're making putting the chances on your side.
I would switch it from plan to like vision and goal.
Yeah.
Because I think what I've learned so much in the last few years, and I think every investor probably can relate to this, like you can have the best plan and things still change. Like you just never know what is going to happen in a market, what's going to happen, politically, what's going to happen financially. And so I think it's really important to not be fixated on a plan, but to be really committed to a goal and be open to like how that might look, to be able like to be open to like maybe the timeline needs to be extended, maybe you're probably going to need to change the plan. I don't think it's being attached to a plan. I think it's being like really committed to what you want to create and having a vision for that, having a clear goal, and being willing to make the pivots, make the turns, change the plan to get where you want to go.
Yeah, absolutely right. That brings us to our fifth question. This one is an important one for me because I'm a big networker myself, as you are. You started the Intentional Real Estate Investing Group. You host events both in person and virtually. It is a big part of what you do. How have these events contributed to your success, and maybe what tips do you have for others looking to build relationships, genuine relationships in the real estate industry?
Yeah, so I think this is one answer is going to answer both of them, and I'll go into a little more detail. But really, this group has contributed to our success because we've contributed to other people's success. Because we've cared about other people being successful and helping other people, that has helped our success. So in our group, and you probably know this, like within the group, like people have learned a ton of information. Like they get access to we do most of our events for free. They get access to different experts and guest speakers and knowledge and information. There's so much of that. There's also deals. Like there's multiple people that have been like, I can't finish this deal. Do you want it? Like pass off deals. There's some people that have gotten partnerships, joint venture partnerships or private lending, creative financing strategies through this. There's been people learn about like new markets. So I had never thought about that, or I never thought about like this type of asset class. Like people are learning about different ideas and hearing from people that are actually doing it. And I think also the last one is confidence. Like if people in our community know that they're not alone. They know that there's somewhere to turn, that they're like, yes, there's ups and downs, and that we're all like wanting to do this. And I think sometimes if you go into the outside world, like whenever I kind of share with people like, oh, we're hoping to replace our income in so many years, whatever that is, people are like, what? Like, that's crazy. Is that possible? Blah, blah, blah. But within the community, like everything is possible. And we're here, like everyone has big dreams, everyone has goals, everyone's doing cool things. And I think there's a lot of confidence that comes from that. So of course, in that, like that benefits us too. We've gotten deals, we've gotten partnerships, we've learned a lot in the process. And so I think because we've helped other people, that helps us. So that kind of leads to tips for building genuine relationships. I think the first thing is, and I love that you added the word genuine because I think that's really important. At the end of the day, we're all humans, and I think you can just be a human. I don't think it has to be overthought. I think come with enthusiasm, be a real person, speak authentically, and be who you are. That's one of the biggest keys. And I also think focusing on serving other people and adding value first. I think
Yeah.
I don't know if you get this, Mario, but we get a lot of people like, can I pick your brain? Can I take you for coffee? Can I do this? And it's like, no, not because I don't like you, not because I don't want to, but because like we're really busy. We have a young family, we have big business that we've built. We have also hobbies and things that we want to, and so we just don't have time to do all those things. And so it's really important that like you don't just come and like want to take from other people, but you're willing to give first.
Yeah.
Even if you're brand new to real estate investing, like think about what other experience you have. Maybe you're great at marketing. Maybe you have a wide network of connections. Maybe you worked in the insurance industry. Maybe you worked in construction. Maybe you still work in construction. Maybe you're really handy. Maybe you're an interior designer and you're great with design. Like maybe you're a project manager and you're great. You can help someone like lay out tasks. Like think about what skill sets, knowledge you have, even if it's not like directly, I've been invested in X member properties over this many years. Like there's something that you have, and remember to bring value. Give people ideas if they're asking for it. Offer advice, offer connections. Like, hey, can I connect you to this property manager or this amazing potential private lender? Or can I connect you to this realtor? Like offer connections, offer resources. Is there a great podcast you listen to? Like this one, for example, is there
Thank
a
you.
great event coming up, right? Like your cruise event, right? Like offer resources, offer events, offer. And if you're like, I literally have none of these things, I have nothing, I know nothing, offer accountability. We all need accountability. Just be like, hey, do you want to be accountability buddies? Let's do it for the next 3 months. Like we both said, we're going to take action. Like let's, whether it's meeting, once a week for 20 minutes to go over accountability, whether it's texting each other on a Monday morning and texting it on a Friday to see how it went. Like accountability is a really easy thing that anybody can do and everybody needs. That's a great way to add value. And I think the last piece I would say is that just remember that you're always networking, because all you are is connecting to people. So, there's definitely so much value in going to real estate focused events. And I'm not trying to diminish that at all. But like, we've gotten clients and deals and opportunities from like going to the beach, from we have people that we met in Cuba. I have people that I've met in like other networking groups. I have other parents. I have friends that I met at like clients that we met at birthday parties. Like there's just, you just never know. And so I think remember that like, if we're talking about being genuine, and I'm asking you to bring like your whole humanity into networking, remember that the other way too, that like you're always an investor and you're always working towards whatever your vision is, whether it's, being able to retire a few years earlier, whether it's wanting to create side income to donate to a philanthropic something that's important to you in terms of a cause, whether it's wanting to pass on generational wealth, like that's a part of you too. And so you don't have to like leave that aside when you're having fun in regular life too. Like you could pull that in too. And you just never know what kind of conversations you have, what kind of connections you're going to make, and how you're going to build those relationships, whether you're specifically at a real estate event or not. So remember, you're human, bring all parts of you, be willing to add value to other people, and have fun with it.
Lisa, it was a pleasure to have you on the show, on the podcast. Learned so much, and I hope that our listeners will take as much as I did from you today. Thank
Yeah,
you for being on
I
the
hope
show.
so too. Thank you for having me. I so appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the 5 Questions podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell on our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. Stay tuned for more insights and tips to transform your real estate and business game. See you next time.